Hello. Together with my colleague Kola here, we're going to present test video number 16 on strategic assets. Essentially, we have a few references here about FEMA's plans for what's vital for the survival of America. And then we have a few references and some individual articles about China and their relationship to our strategic assets. In catastrophic thinking, the idea is to formulate policies to enable us to survive, which means first identifying what are our strategic assets, and second, identifying the risks that they face, and third, how will the risks impact the strategic assets? Well, our catastrophic thinkers in the United States are FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Homeland Security, terrorists, our global adversaries, and of course the military. A little history on choke points, which are often referred to as strategic assets or strategic points. In World War II, the U.S. Strategic Air Command wanted to bomb Nazi Germany's economy and war production into oblivion, bomb and destroy everything, which isn't practical, or identify economic choke points. The Air Force identified ball bearings in war machines as vital, and the manufacturing was concentrated in Schweinfurt, Germany. So they tried to raid it. On August 17, 1943, there was an airstrike. They sent 376 bombers for that one town. They lost 60 bombers, and 60 to 90 were badly damaged. Many did never fly again, and the production at Schweinfurt was reduced only by a third. After months of recovery and repair, the U.S. Air Force tried again, and the second attempt on October 14, 2043, 291 bombers went, 60 were damaged, 60 were destroyed, 140 were damaged, 17 never were to fly again. Production was halted for 6 weeks, and the Germans had extensive ball bearing stocks. They had Sweden and Switzerland supplying them ball bearings, and they had reserves. But why bring this up? Because this shows the problem in identifying bottlenecks, choke points, and strategic assets. We only think we know. Even the smartest, richest man in the world, Elon Musk, does not appreciate strategic assets, even when he sees them. He found federal retirement records stored in an old mine and processed and stored on paper records. And look at the references. Well, those are catastrophic values. Those records would survive a nuclear war, an EMP, or just about any other catastrophe, because being deep in that mine, those old mines are Cold War thinking at its finest. Strategic assets are often referred to as choke points. When, where, and how will logistics fail in a catastrophe? Typically thought of as a transportation or a geographic problem. The British Empire and the Royal Navy focused on choke points in their naval control. But it's not just on the seas, it includes mountain passes, bridges, railroads, and oil pipelines. Geographic choke points included Suez Canal, Panama Canal, Strait of Hormuz, Strait of Gibraltar into the Mediterranean, the Bosporus, and straits leading between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, the English Channel, and Singapore Strait. Modern thinking is that anything that can cripple an economy. We think of AI as a strategic consideration, and cybersecurity. Choke points can be people, they can be the positions, they can be the processes. Processes with long lead times and low capabilities like manufacturing high voltage substation transformers. That's a strategic asset. Those are strategic assets. Repair parts they aren't making anymore. And we learned something in the COVID. RN90 masks are made overseas. In a pandemic, we didn't have them. Choke point thinking is evolving. Political bullying is defining what is a choke point. Japan recently restricted the export to South Korea of 3 chemicals crucial to the production of semiconductors because of a political spat with Seoul. Harvard Business Review article there is referenced. Other choke points: networks, digital information, financing in a global finance relies on a single organization in Belgium to relay the majority of transactions between banks. Again, the Harvard article. Rare earths, cloud computing is centered in the United States. Not only is it all for the whole world in the United States, in 2 places, Silicon Valley and around Washington, D.C. China is a canary in the mine. We are a long overdue trade and tariff war with China to make international trade fair. The President's point about trades and tariff agenda is to ensure we are maintaining critical supply chains here in America. We cannot be dependent on countries like China if we want this country to be strong and wealthy. That's from the press secretary in April 11th, 2025 quote. China is pointing our strategic assets out to us. You see the references on China. They tried to take over the Panama Canal. They have a lot of presence in our USA ports. They also have presence in ports around the world. They have many rare earths, and they're trying to get more. They're buying gold, they're buying farmland in the Americas, and they're buying real estate near our military bases. Our response to China was Foreign Investment and National Security Act of 2007. It defines critical infrastructure vital to the United States, that the destruction of such systems or assets would have a debilitating impact on national security. So, identify strategic assets, then let's identify risks, and then identify how the risks will impact them. In a catastrophe, there will be no time to think. There must be an action plan already laid out to deal with the expected risk impacts and the flexibility built into the in the system to deal with the unexpected. So, identify strategic assets. See video 20. We can't live without it. The Chinese are buying it or hoarding it. Our military needs it. FEMA has identified it as a critical infrastructure or key resource. And of course, there's one: time. Time is of the essence. Identify the risks. They can be natural, human. I've identified 6 of them in my public service announcements. The economy and technology, including how our technology is susceptible. We got 32-bit chips that will fail in Y2K38. We have EMPs. And we have misguided scientific research, SV40 research, look that up. How will the risks play out? One thing leads to another. How will the strategic assets be affected in stress? Then there's compounding catastrophes. If one thing fails, there will be stress from the chaos that will result in many strategic assets or systems to fail. There will be impact on finances, impact on logistics, impact on resources, anticipate scarcity, anticipate adversity. FEMA has identified essential support functions.